just thank you. When I think of his love for me, and how he's looked out for me, I get so filled up like an overflowing cup. I can't say a word, but I can wave my hand. I can't say a word, but I can wave my hand. I get so full. I get so full. I would explain. I explain for you. God has been just like you.
Hey, Robin.
Hey, how you doing today?
I'm good. You see, I'm doing the fire unfinished background everywhere.
I see, I see. Nice. Very nice.
Yeah, I'm trying to let everybody know about fire unfinished. At the end, I think we'll say a few words about what's going on this week with Naomi and Mariel in fire unfinished. It went really good this week. I think I left them on a cliffhanger. I hope I did.
Uh-huh.
But today we're going to talk about the filibuster.
Yes. Yes, he did a wonderful job on this filibuster.
Yeah. What was the exact hours?
The exact hours started on March the 31st at 7 p.m. and it ended on April the 1st at 8:05 p.m.
Oh wow, that's what 25
Mhm.
hours,
25 hours and
a
5
little over
minutes.
minutes to be exact.
And
Well,
the
that
record he
that
beat was 24 hours.
yeah, 24 hours, right? The one he
Right.
beat, right?
Yes.
Which was Strom Thurmond, and I don't know
Correct.
if a lot of people know who Strom Thurmond is, but we're gonna get into it. Thanks everybody for joining us tonight. We're gonna be talking about the filibuster and really trying to explain what a filibuster is and why it's been around for so long and how it's used in the Senate. The filibuster is primarily a Senate thing. But before I do that, let me correct something I said last week. I just thought about that. We were talking about the votes that's needed in the Senate and the House, and I was talking about impeaching the president. And so I want to go back and explain that and give those numbers because those numbers I gave were a little off. So in the House, all you need is 51 votes, and but the issue is, and what makes it so difficult is when you get to the Senate. In the Senate, you have to get uh, three quarters, which would be around 60 something votes. So that's still a lot. It's like 65, 67% of the Senate needs to vote to impeach a president. So what that would look like is if it was like 50 senators agreed to impeach, you're gonna have to go to the other aisle, and you're gonna need somewhere between 15, 17. I don't remember the exact number of senators to cross over the aisle and vote with you. That's why it's never done because of the high number of for full impeachment, meaning that they would leave the office. So
Mhm.
I was still right about the fact that this is a tall hill, that it has not been done since the 1800s, and it's still very tall. And the reason is we wouldn't want everybody to be able to just impeach a president just because they don't like them, regardless of who they are. So I wanted to go back and correct those numbers for you and make sure that I'm giving you the correct information. So uh, I hope that's helpful. And if someone's heard from last week, then that you would know that correction and what I'm talking about. So the filibuster, a lot of questions. I've gotten a lot of questions this week about what is a filibuster. So want to make sure that we give it to you accurately. Uh, make sure that what we say is accurate. So, Robin, I want to be able to show a film about what a filibuster is, just so everybody be on the same page before we go any further.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
Or block the vote for a bill. This is called a filibuster vote for. Senators can talk about anything to delay or block the vote for a bill. This is called a filibuster.
Has America the Beautiful become Alice's Wonderland?
This one specifically lasted nearly 13 hours, and believe it or not, it's legal to do. The Senate has 100 members. It takes 51 votes to pass a law. The filibuster is a tactic the minority can use if they don't have enough votes to stop the bill. To filibuster, any senator who opposes the bill can talk for as long as they want, which prevents a vote from happening. To end the filibuster, 60 senators need to agree to end debate on the bill. If there aren't enough people on board, the bill is put on the back burner and the Senate moves on to other business. By filibustering, the minority basically forces the other side to cough up 60 votes instead of 51 in order to pass the bill. Filibusters used to be rare, and when they were used to encourage debate and convince people on the other side to agree with you. It often delayed the vote, but didn't defeat the bill altogether. Take Senator Strom Thurmond, for example. He spoke for 24 hours and 18 minutes, the longest filibuster in history, and that bill eventually passed. Today, almost every major bill is filibustered, but now filibustering is basically a death sentence for a bill. The strategy has become so popular that senators don't even need to talk anymore. Just by threatening to filibuster, they force a vote to see if there are enough people in favor of holding a full Senate vote. If not, then the bill is dead. It can also discourage senators from bringing a bill to the floor in the first place. As a result, many bills don't become laws. Supporters of the filibuster say it promotes compromise and gives the minority party a voice in the Senate. But this tactic really came about by mistake. The filibuster isn't part of the Constitution. It only became possible after the Senate eliminated a rule in 1806 that automatically ended debate on the chamber floor. Once senators realized they could prolong debate indefinitely, they took advantage of this loophole to block bills they didn't like.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, check out these other videos.
Okay, so that's a filibuster. So what they're doing is, if you're in the minority party, primarily, this is when it's important. I mean, why would you do it if you were in the majority? But if you were in the minority, which is where the Democrats are right now, if it's a bill that they don't like or they don't think is fair, they can actually do a filibuster. Like when Cory Booker did the filibuster this week, it wasn't even about a bill. It was about taking control and talking to the people and giving a perspective of where the Democratic senators are on what's going on in the United States right now. Coincidentally, though, there was a bill right after that about the tariffs, and that bill actually failed. And it was targeted at Canada, and that bill actually failed with some senators from the Republican side actually going over to the Democratic side and passing the bill. But this it's a really powerful tool, and there's been a lot of talk about getting rid of it because some senators don't like it. But I guess depending on what side of the table you're on, if you like it, you know.
Mm-hmm. The video is stated that the filibuster does not guarantee that the bill will not be passed. As stated, Thurmond, his bill was in 1957. The bill he was trying to block was in 1957, and it was for integration. He did not want the schools to be segregated. So his bill ended up passing. He didn't want it, so that's why he filibustered, but it still ended up passing. So we did in 1857 begin integration in the school system.
And the only thing he did was delay it. He delayed it, and sometimes originally the filibuster was about them talking it out and working it out. But then soon senators realized this is a serious tool here. If I threaten to filibuster your bill, you may not even introduce it at all. And so
Mhm.
uh, that's really how that came about. And right now it's a really good tool, and it's a lot of things that are questionable. So we, seeing senators come out and do this now. Cory Booker, he actually made history because he beat uh, uh, what is this? Strong
Strong
Thurmond.
Thurman. Mhm.
Yeah, Strong Thurmond. He actually beat his record, which was 24. And as we all know now, Cory Booker went 25 hours and talked about almost every single issue uh, that we have going on. And he said he had more. I think he said he had about 10 binders, and he was only able to go through some of them. So I guess he was very prepared uh,
I,
to.
I really, this was my first filibuster listening to and getting involved with, and it was extremely informative to me. I learned a lot, and I thought I knew a lot from just watching the news every day and looking at these executive orders that Trump was trying to get passed. He was signing and things that were going on, but it was in no comparison into the things that I learned listening to Cory Booker. I mean, he really shed some light on some things. In conjunction, he also told us a lot of his colleagues, just personal information, not personal, but just day-to-day activities that they go through. And it was he was very humorous in doing that, so I enjoyed what I heard from his filibuster, but I
Well,
did take away a lot.
yeah, it was almost like a history lesson. The way that he conducted it, it was very much like a history lesson. And one of the things that I liked was he really didn't seem to be just harping on, they're spending a lot of hours just dogging Republicans. It just seemed like he was just stating, this is where it is, and this is what we're doing, and these are the things when we worked in the past that we were able to accomplish when we worked together, and talking about the people and what the feedback that he's gotten from the people. He actually read a lot of letters from different
Mhm.
people in his constituent that have concerns. And I don't think it's too many people. I mean, it's a lot of people that's got concerns. I think I looked at Trump's popularity this week, and it said 43%. Uh, the Quinnipiac got it at 3%. The Gallup got it at 43%. And if you remember what we talked about last week was we want to try to bring polls that don't lean to the left or to the right. So I didn't do the other numbers. If I mention any numbers uh, in the podcast, it's going to be from an impartial polls that basically are not leaning too far right or too far left. So that's where the polls are showing that he's currently standing, which means that 57% of people are having concerns and questions. And so he really spoke to that. He spoke about the farmers a lot.
Mhm. And better. You're right. I really liked it because he didn't beat down the Republican Party. He really just kind of stayed in the middle, and he just let you know how people were being affected on both sides and how important the things that need to be done and coming together and making it better for everyone, just not for a certain group of people. And that was, I think, it drew a lot of people in, I believe, because I seen a lot of good, days after he had spoke. So I really enjoyed that he didn't just beat down the other side.
Yeah,
And
it was almost like a call to arms, for everybody to do things. And when I say a call to arms, I've made perfectly clear, and I think a lot of Black people have, that we're not going out on the streets and march. But that's not necessarily the only way to fight back. This boycotting and self education has really been beneficial uh, to a lot of people. And so,
mhm,
and that's a call to arms. The more you know the better you are at making informed decisions and understanding what's going on around you, and it empowers you to think outside the box about how we move forward. So I really did enjoy that part of it, of him calling people to on saying, even if we're not marching, we can't go to sleep. We can't not pay attention. And I don't think the Black community as a whole is even implying that that's the approach. It's just the going out and marching and all of that's not happening in big numbers. I didn't even see
Right.
those big numbers with the march this weekend. I saw big numbers with people out there marching, but I didn't necessarily see a big number of Black people out there marching. And it looked to be pretty peaceful, and it begs me to wonder if we were out there, would it have been that peaceful?
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if it would have been that peaceful had we been out there. So I'm just glad that nobody got hurt. And some of our viewers are saying that they really enjoyed Cory Booker's filibuster. And hello, Miss Claudia. We're glad to have you here. And yeah, I think we enjoyed it. I think it was a good lesson for the country. When I was on, I saw over 100,000 people making comments, rapid comments. I think it was up to almost close to 200,000 just on YouTube, just making comment after comment after comment, and the comments have been all on all of the social media. And I think it was just one big grand lesson in civics and history. So that's like really awesome. I don't know. Sometimes when we don't agree with someone, or I don't agree with Trump's approach at all. I think I'm not going to say. But that'll take me all in a whole different direction. But what I do think the silver lining is that we're all paying a lot more attention, and we're becoming educated and smarter every day. And I think that's an awesome thing. So I want to play just I got 2 clips from the filibuster, and we can talk about them.
Began this whole thing with John Lewis. I beg folks to take his example of his early days, where he made himself determined to show his love for his country at a time the country didn't love him, to love this country so much, to be such a patriot that he endured beatings savagely on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, at lunch counters, on freedom rides. He said he had to do something. He would not normalize a moment like this. He would not just go along with business as usual. We all us to go out and cause some trouble. Of a nation. I want to dream the dream. Be the greater ends. Let's be bolder in America. Hope that starts with the people of the United States of America. That's how this country started. We, the people. Let's get back to the ideals that others are threatening. Let's get back to our founding documents, that those imperfect geniuses had some very special words at the end of the Declaration of Independence. It was one of the greatest in all of humanity declarations of interdependence. When our founder said we must mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. We need that now from all Americans. This is a moral moment. It's not left or right, it's right or wrong. Let's get in good trouble. My friend, Madam President, I yield.
Wow.
That was his final words.
You know, something that we've said a few times on our podcast is that do what you can do to to just show that you have power, and that your voice is powerful, and that you have the ability to change something. And he made that very clear. He said every person has a power, so use your power to the best of your ability, and knowledge is power. Don't allow what's being done be done to you. Counteract it the way that you know how, or the way that you can. Even as I've stated before, even if what you can do is just making sure that you vote, or telling someone when it's time to vote, and not just every 4 years, but also on the primary elections. Make sure that you vote during that time. Let your voice continue to have power, because everyone does have power. And he
And
made that clear several times. And during his, I had seen that the highest he got up was people watching him was 350 million viewers at one time. 350 million.
and that was not just in the United States, because that's a very
That
high
was,
number that we watch.
I think that they said in the United States there's 400 million in the
Not,
United States.
yeah, we got about 370, something like that, 360,
Yeah, and
75.
he said that's why we knew that it wasn't just the United States, but he had 350 million viewers at one time. So I don't know I'm glad that I was able to witness that. It was very powerful to me. It really made me feel like we're not alone in this, that someone is really over there fighting for us. Someone is thinking the way that we think and feel the way that we feel, and um is just at arm's width of what's going on with the people in the that we have that's in the White House. And that really made me feel good watching his filibuster. It really did. It gave me a sense of hope, and it gave me a sense of pride and hope. Seeing that, it did a lot for me. I think it took some of my fear away too, of what was going on, to just know that things are not going to be done just willingly. Someone other than myself and you are fighting for what is right, because like you said, right, it's not a right or left, it's just being right. And the people that are running this United States right now are not right. So
Absolutely. And it's not a left or right. Some things, I mean, we're doing business as usual. We can say left or right. This is not a left or right issue. This is a right or wrong. But
right.
this is an issue that has always existed. Now it has just come to the surface. We fooled ourselves and put on blinders to think that some of these feelings are new. I don't know how many of y'all know
Mhm.
it, but they removed some of Harriet Tubman's stuff today. And not today, this weekend, I found out that they had moved some recently, uh, within the last couple of days, removed some Harriet Tubman, removed her quotes and things like that, which, that's always been there. And I think one of the things that we're really realizing is, and maybe we're not being as bothered by those things being removed, because again, I say maybe it was not in the right hands in the first place, and no one can teach a person's culture as well as the people that are from that culture. So, but and that the things that's going on in society right now is just really not about whether it's just not right or left, and this is
Mhm.
right or wrong. This is
Right.
good and bad, good and evil. It really is. And that's not to say that everybody from any party is all good. There are people with their own agendas in all parties: independent, Green Party, uh, Republican, Democratic. There's always people on their own agenda. But we sometimes think people aren't doing something because they're not in our face all the time, and
Mhm.
we want them in our face. Well, some people put their heads down and do the work and do the fighting. They don't have time to entertain us with being on every news station and all of that. It just doesn't work like that. Sometimes people are serious about what they're doing, and they got their heads down and they're making the right votes and they're introducing the right bills. I would ask that we understand that, and not make blanketed statements like, well, they aren't doing nothing anyway, and it doesn't really matter. Uh, Cory Booker did talk to that. He did speak to that, and he did talk about some of his colleagues who are doing things, but we don't see them on the news. I don't want them on the news. I want them in the chamber trying to do something for us. Do something for the people. This is just not ever going to be fair, ever. It's never going to be just completely fair, but what it can be is better, and what we can be is better. So, but if we just turn on a blind eye and deal with our everyday lives and not look up, and then 4 years have all of these opinions and we didn't pay attention, and everybody don't have to be a civics master. People got lives to lead. I get it. But I mean, when that money coming out of our pocket, we care about that. When we can't pay our prescription, we care about that. When our kids are arrested unjustly and get inflated sentences, we care about that. That's our life. Well, these are the people that's focused on these things. When our kids are getting a poor education, or we can't find a job, rent so high, light so high, tariffs are not going to affect us. I beg to differ. So I think that weak excuse that I really don't do politics, I really don't pay attention to that. I know you pay attention to the impact that these things are having.
Coming out your pocket.
Yeah, out your pocket. And now we got Social Security. Did you know that most of the Social Security offices are closed? A lot of them are closed. People can't even get someone on the phone. Now that makes sense. So I feel like this: if you're gonna mess my Social Security, my Medicaid, my ability to make a living, my kids' education, my health, whatever has that kind of power, I want to know what it is and what it's doing. It is a very weak excuse. I'm not into politics. It is, in my opinion, this is not Robin. I'm not speaking for Robin. I am saying Tammy LaFall is part of Hidden Voices. My opinion is to say that you're not into politics is really should be a revelation that is a weak excuse. Now, we must understand, what people are doing and how it will affect our lives. We all have our faith, and we ultimately, I'm sure that a lot of people have their faith. I have mine. I believe that God's got me. That doesn't mean that I have to walk around with blinders. That does not mean that. And I think this was really good, because one of the tired arguments I hear all the time is, well, none of them is doing anything. That's such a blanketed statement. Robin?
I was going to say, them taking Harriet Tubman out of the history, it just goes back to what we said when we kind of started the podcast, talking about educating your children at home. The little knowledge that they were giving our children wasn't suffice anyway. So we really have to go back and take a look at these, what was it, 400 books that they took out of the school system. Go back and make those, start purchasing those books for your own home library. We said this at the beginning of our podcast when we first started. Start incorporating those books into your house and teaching your children at home. Don't forget that, because we have to educate our children at home. They are completely trying to wipe out what the little history that they are teaching our children. And we don't want our children to be lost when it comes to our history.
Cory Booker did a filibuster, and I was so happy he did it at this time, because the education now is just going 24 hours a day. The education is really going, and our kids go to school, and I bet you all the way to seniors, depending on what environment and what school they're going to, they may not even know what a filibuster is and what's the purpose and the strength that can happen. Now, if it's we have to understand that if it's good on one side, it's good on the other. So if we were the majority and we were introducing, I don't like that, because I don't stick with one. I mean, I wouldn't vote Republican, but I don't like to call myself tied to any particular party. But if the Democrats had a bill and the Republicans did not like the bill, they have that same ability in the Senate to filibuster. It's no need for it in the House, but that's something. And if they could communicate, filibustering would mean nothing more than two parties actually hashing it out and coming up with an agreement. But since people don't want to hash it out, then they can do like Cory Booker and just stand there and talk until they can't talk anymore. Now he used terms like "I will not yield the floor." Well, what? And you'll hear people say, "Well, will you yield for me to ask a question?" And he has to specifically say, "I'll yield for your question, but I am not yielding the floor." Because once he yields the floor, like he did at the end on this one, it's over.
Right. Right.
It's over. And he has to continue to talk. And the way he got breaks was he got little bitty breaks. And what he would do is he would yield the floor to someone, let them talk for a while, and they would just talk for as long as they could, about some subject. And that would give him a little break in between to just kind of rest his voice and whatever. And then they yielded back to him. And then he would continue. Now, there was a way to stop him in his tracks. What they were going to need, there are 48 48 Democrats and 50, I think 52 Republicans, and then 51 Republicans, and then the vice president gets a vote, like Kamala had when she would break those tiebreakers when it was 50 and 50, she'd come in and be the 51st. What they were going to need to do is that 51 or whatever that the Republicans have, they would have to get 60. So they would have to get 9 Democrats, or at least 8 Democrats, to say that they wanted Cory Booker to be quiet and sit down. And not only that, they would pass that bill. So it would end the filibuster. They would have enough to pass the bill. But in order for them to do that, if it was a bill, but it wasn't a bill. So in this scenario, it would just be him ending his filibuster. If it was about a bill and they collected 60 votes, that means whatever the House has. So if the House has, let's say that the Democrats have 49 and the House has 51. And if the House had 51 and the Democrats got 49, they would need to cross over and get 9 of those Democrats to go on their side. Well, actually, they would need 8, and then you would have the one from the Republican. But that's what it would look like. And it is very hard to go over there and find 8 people. You can't find 2, let alone 8 that's going to say 8 Democrats that's going to say he needs to sit down. You may be lucky if you get 1. So that's why they couldn't stop him. He was unstoppable because the Democrats were not going to cave and give them the votes they needed to stop him. And so he had the floor for as long as he wanted. Theoretically, he could have stayed up there all week if he could do it. And there was nothing anyone could do about it.
And his colleagues were actually working with him. They had prepared for this because they knew he was going to do this filibuster. So they had prepared their questioning so that they could give him a break. So he had his colleagues. They were there to help him and support him doing this filibuster. So he wasn't up there just, literally alone.
So, and it was almost like a workout. So just so we understand, because we did say we were going to talk about filibuster. We're going to do one more of his videos, but just so we'll understand, in order to end a filibuster, you need 60 votes. 60. In order for the Democrats to win, it would have had to been 40 in order for the Republicans to get what they want, they would have needed 60 Republicans and 40 Democrats. Well, that's not the numbers they had. We had like 47, 48 Democrats, 50 odd a little over 50 Republicans. They were going to have to go over to that other side, and there was no way they was going to get them to cross over to shut him down. That just was not going to happen. It's the same scenario when I talk about impeaching, when we talk about the Constitution. Trump can sign a plethora of executive orders, but any of those executive orders that touch on the Constitution will still need that 75% of the Senate. That will not change. And that will always mean that 50 got to go over there and find 15 to go with them. And that's not going to happen. The same thing would happen if it was the Democrats. They got to cross over and see if they can find 15 Republicans to stand with them. These people are not going to do it. And the reasons they're not going to do it is because they're fearful of re-elections, jeopardizing their opportunity for re-elections. They have lobbyists. They have their constituents. So as you can see, there are layers, and everybody got their own reasons. Some of them is greed. Some of them is wanting to be elected again. It's not always, well, I'm just going to do the right thing. Now, there are a lot of them that do the right thing, but there are some that's not. And finding that recipe to get that number of people, some of them struggle. I pay attention to politics. I've heard them struggle with trying to get 2 votes, and they do a lot. They make concessions. They modify the bill. You may have an independent, and the independent will vote all the time with Democrats, or they'll vote all the time with Republicans. So you'll hear them say, this is an independent, but they lean and vote often with the Democrats. Mm-hmm. But not always, but most of the time. So what they'll do is, if they need that independent, they'll say, what is it that I can give you to make you want to go on our side, right? Or to vote with us? And the Republican will name something, and he'll say, he or she will say, I need this changed in the bill. If y'all change this in the bill, then I'll vote with y'all. It's leverage. It's leverage. And then they use it as another weapon. They'll say, if you introduce that bill, you know what? I'm going to filibuster, and we're going to be up all night long, and you're going to listen to me. And that sometimes causes people to be hesitant about introducing the bills.
Yeah. You know, I was going to say, even though I learned a lot, from Cory Booker filibustering, I really found it humorous, some of the side conversations that he was having. I was like, okay, why is he talking about that? But it was just the object of just talking, just keep going nonstop. So some of his conversation were really hilarious.
I used the analogy to Robin that he could get up there and say Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall. As long as he keeps talking, he has to keep talking. And if they're going to do this right, then they need to, you have to do your homework and realize, what am I going to talk about nonstop for hours on end? This is a powerful tool, but it's also physically exhausting, amongst other things.
And it's a lot of work, because he talked about how much work that his team had put in to prepare him for this. How many notebooks of information, how many hours they spent in collecting the information and making sure that it wasn't one-sided. So they put a lot of work into making sure they had the right amount of things to say and do for this filibuster. And like you stated earlier, he said he still could go on. He didn't even get through all the notebooks, all the paperwork that he had, all the notes. He didn't even get through everything. So he still could have went on if he was, physically able to do that. So that was interesting.
Standing on your feet for 25 hours is
a long.
Exhausting, and he works
he mentioned it too. He mentioned that his feet, were going numb and his back was hurting, but he did it. He definitely did it, and he beat. I'm gonna just put he beat a racist from 1957, and he made a world record. So he has to be commended for standing up there that long. And he's not a young man, so he definitely. He's not an old man, but he's not a young man to be standing on his feet like that in some I'm gonna say church shoes. He didn't have on some tennis shoes. He had on a suit as a church shoe. So I know his feet was hurting. So I definitely commend him for stand up there and doing that. He did it. He definitely did a job.
So we're gonna listen to one more of his clips.
For as long as I am physically able. This would be a crisis for elder care. This would be a crisis for disability services. What it is, when a nation isn't taking care of its elders, it's a crisis of our national character. Why are so many women dying in childbirth and in the postpartum period in America? Shameful. And now, I just found out that the community violence intervention money that you allowed me to fight so hard to get into that bill is being clawed back by Donald Trump. They're writing me letters with words like fear and terror. They're talking about staying up at night and not being able to sleep because they don't have a president that comforts them. I mean, it's almost like you can't make this up, honestly. Another story from a Social Security employee in New Jersey. I am a claims representative for our Social Security field office. The most dramatic changes I've noticed from our recent change in operations is that our appointment calendar seems to be filling up more quickly for simple post-entitlement changes. We've gone through healthcare cuts. We've gone through Social Security being attacked and undermined and slashed. If you're revoking somebody's visa, make a phone call, tell them that you have 30 days to leave. But there should be due process. You should have to prove your claims in court. If this person is somehow lying with some kind of enemy, prove it. You don't need more tax cuts. And we as a society have an obligation to each other, to those farmers, to those rural folks, to the cops I stood with at the funeral of one of their colleagues in Newark 2 weeks ago. Our Social Security offices are being closed already. And the question of why? Under the guise of efficiency, but you're hurting our elders who deserve dignity in their retirement. It's stunning to me. I've had farmers from New Jersey to Texas coming to my office about this president freezing contracts that we approved in a bipartisan manner, putting them in financial crisis. It's not right or left, it's right or wrong. It's not a partisan moment, it's an American moment. It's a moral moment. Does the wealth of our people, we have more billionaires than any other country, does that speak to the greatness of our nation? No. I think the things that speak to the greatness of a nation is how do we take care of each other? I asked you, are you better off than you were 72 days ago economically? I asked that question. Ask it to your friends. Are they better off economically? Well, I don't see how they could be because prices are up, stock market's down, the risk of recession is climbing, consumer confidence is in the gutter. I want to stand here today and tell you I'm going to do everything I can. I'm willing to go to some lengths. But I am inadequate. You are inadequate. We're senators with all of this power, but in this democracy, the power of the people is greater than the people in power. This is a moral moment that more Americans need to stand up and say enough is enough. Moment where judges rule in his favor, and he praises them. They just don't rule for him. He drags them and threatens them, so much so that Chief Justice of the Supreme Court has to tell them to back up. When elected officials speak up, many of them fear what the consequences would be for them or their re-election if they speak against him.
Wow. I don't understand. It doesn't matter what party you voted for. How could you not be empathetic or sympathetic to people who are in fear of losing their jobs, unable to feed their families, losing their homes, losing just in a array of dysfunction because the government is taking your your livelihood away from you, and just day by day, pieces by pieces. How can you not be sympathetic to that, regardless to what party you voted for? It's just it's sad. It's sad and sickening at the same time. But so many
Absolutely.
people have to be stressed out and worry, and they started out like you said, they closed they got rid of a lot of people, like at the Social Security. First they started taking them away, so they said that you weren't able to get your calls answered when you called in for a question. So they were telling you, well, go into the office. Well, now they started firing people in the office. So now there's just a backlog of people that are needing help. And the majority of the people that are getting disability, or a lot of people are senior citizens. So they tell them to go on the computer, but a lot of them, I mean, you're talking to 70-plus-year-old people, they're not familiar with the computer. They're not, savvy, computer savvy. So you're telling them to learn something new, trying to get something done, how stressful that is to them. It just, it makes no sense. How can someone like, how could you even think that someone like that is for the people or trying to help the people, when you're taking away the things that are supposed to help them? Even the contracts, we talked about this last week, the money, the grant money, the loan money they have for the farmers. If we're going to want to be more American based and not have to have all our goods from other countries, why not give them the money that is granted to them so that they can produce more vegetables and fruit for us, so that we don't have to have those things brought in? But you taking away their money to help us, it's just, you're contradicting yourself. What sense does that make? He Trump never has a clear answer to anything. It's I don't even know how he answers a question. It's some lie or some backwash, but it's never a clear answer to what he's doing. But we can clearly see that what he's doing is hurting the American people. He's hurting the American people.
And like you said, Robin, you asking people that's 75, 80, sometimes older than 80, to get on a computer and do their social security, and everybody doesn't have resources. A lot of people have their kids, their family, or grandkids that can get on and do it. But why would you do that? Why would you take that level of independence away from them, where they could take care of their own business? And in that time in life, your independence is huge. And to take something that rightfully they could get on the phone and make a phone call, or and take care of their Medicaid and Social Security issues, and to to move in the direction of having all of that to be automated. And I'm the technology person, but I do not agree with majority of that being only your only option is technology, because um, there are still living, breathing senior citizens that really didn't mess with computers. I'm a senior citizen, but I was born in a time where when computers were first introduced, I was extremely young and kind of have grown up with computers in a way. So but my mother and people like my mother, computers really got in. I mean, computers always been here, but I mean, for for the common person, the regular person to use it, and it be in people's homes. I mean, I was I was almost 30 years old when that became really common. Well, if I was 30 and I'm talking about my mom, that was like totally different. And so to put them in that position and to take that power and take that independence and play with their independence when they've earned the right to get that Social Security, they've earned the right to get that Medicaid. Many of these people have worked on jobs for just many years, and they're at the time when they should be enjoying their lives and doing the things they want, even if they don't want to do anything but chill. They should be able
Mhm.
to do that without these unnecessary interferences in their lives, you know. And it
And
is
if you
sad.
really,
Sad.
you really want someone to have something, you're not going to make them jump through 100 hoops to get to it. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're, like you said, they're making everything harder for them to be able to get to it, taking away their independency. And that's, I can't even imagine how nerve wracking that is, or how much anxiety that puts them
That
in,
can cause.
knowing that now they have to wait on another person in their family, like you said, the grandkids or their children, to come and help them with something that they were normally used to taking care of. You taking something else away from them.
Away from
That's
them.
just
It is. And we can blame the politicians all we want, but we were left with 47 politicians because people didn't vote. People thought about themselves rather than thinking about the country and how this was going to. Uh, um, and so we have them, and there are people, and I want to say today, there are people in the government. They are politicians that are actually in there trying to fight this, but we left them with this mess to go in to fight for us with no weapons, no tools. And I think it would be hypocritical of us to criticize all of them when some of them are trying to do what they can, from the Jasmine Crockett's to Omar, um, what's my girl, Elon Omar, and Jeffries. From all of them, they are in there doing their best. We, the people, took away every tool that they had to work with, and so I think that we should be supporting them and not stabbing not saying and uh, so much about what we, and then mostly I don't prescribe to talking when we don't know what we're talking about. So if we don't know what people are doing in the government, then if we want to have an opinion, take out 5 minutes and try to learn who you're talking about, especially if it's one you don't like, because they ain't doing nothing. Maybe it would behoove us to look and see what they're really doing. And then there are bad. They're bad in everything. If you go to your job, I bet you got somebody that don't do nothing.
And
If you go to
knowledge
school,
is power. Like you say, learn something, Google something.
yeah,
Knowledge is power. And
yeah,
stop going on social media, bad mouthing the people that are out there trying to help us. Stop it. Can we stick together and get through this fight together? Because unity is what's gonna get us through this. Unity, not separation. We have to stick together and fight in this fight.
and there's always. I mean, like I said, if you go to work, you're gonna find somebody who's sorry, don't do anything. If you go to school, I bet there's a sorry teacher in the school, don't do anything,
Hmm.
nothing at all, just kind of getting a paycheck. But there's also some outstanding teachers uh, in a school. I know when my nephew was younger, he went to a school, and I was told, "Oh, that school is nothing. All those teachers is sorry. They don't teach that boy nothing." Blah blah blah. This was a black school in Oak Cliff, and I went and because my nephew was acting up in school, I just took off from work for 2 weeks and just went to school every day so I could teach him how to go to school. And I went and sat in his class, and I found some of the most amazing teachers giving it all they had to try to reach the kids in that community. And then I saw one teacher, and all the kid did was copy the newspaper. They didn't even read it. They just copied it for an hour, and then the bell rang. I could not figure that out to save my life. And I immediately took my nephew out of that classroom. But by and large, I saw a lot of teachers that were giving it all they got. So there's always going to be people that's just along for the ride, and there's always going to be people that are giving it all they got. And we as black people, we have to stop thinking that if someone is not fixing it the way I want it fixed, or they're not addressing, they're using their superpower. Our goal
Mhm.
is to use our superpower. Don't bash another person's superpower. you know um I think about Malcolm and Martin, as they both had their own superpowers, and how beautiful it would have been if we could have embraced both of them at the same time. But I know history, and in real time, that wasn't the way it was portrayed. One was portrayed as militant, and the other one was weak because he was begging. I mean, we as people, particularly the Black culture, it is time for that to stop and say they are
Mhm.
doing it the best way they know how, and there is no one answer to this. No one has it. No one has the one answer. And when we open 2 or 3 books and think we're a genius, we need to realize that we open 2 or 3 books. That don't make us a genius and the answer to everything. So, I'm just saying that we have politicians that do work in our favor, and we have politicians that are just flat out crooks. And I like to know the difference because I don't like to blanket them all together like that.
Right. Right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
So, Ron, we got 5 minutes. Can I do?
Yes, please.
Okay, so Wednesday we have I'm gonna have another episode of Fire Unfinished with Naomi. That's the novel that I've written, and we play parts of the novel with visuals. So it's not like you're just listening to someone read. It's I try really hard to make it cinematic for you, for the viewers, so that they can kind of see. And this is from my perspective now. I wrote it so you kind of get to see an idea of what I was envisioning when I wrote this book. Fire Unfinished is about the power that we all possess, and it definitely highlights the leadership of black women, uh, and our determination, our resilience, and our ability to do extraordinary things. Now the setting is in 1935, and it goes it goes up into current times, but Naomi is really doing the civil rights movement, and it's a twist on what if we would have reacted differently. What if we all had come together and not had splintered into different groups? What could have happened? And what if there was and it also has a feel for like battle and warriors, and in the warriors here in the United States. So the book takes place in the United States, and it really tackles the history of people, not just black people, but people that have been taken advantage of throughout history, and what would have happened if things had turned out, or if we had taken a different path. Um, like I said, it's full of action. It is a more like a drama. Um, it is more like a drama, and so as it moves on, you'll see a lot more of that. So this is the second part. I invite you to join me on Wednesday at 7 p.m. and we send an invite out. And if you would share it, um, one of the things I love now with Trump I love this. I'm seeing more and more people put pen to paper, and a lot more talk about history and empowerment. And sometimes, a little imagination, using a little imagination and what ifs is not a bad thing. Now, the book does use true historical things that actually occurred, but it is a fiction drama. And definitely women and men should be interested. But if you want to see a powerful woman, meet Naomi. She is a force to reckon. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We'll see you next Monday at 7 p.m. And remember, I'm sorry, my throat is acting up tonight. And remember, you know, let's learn everything we can before we vote. And don't forget special elections. Do not forget special elections. Every election counts, from a
Okay.
judge to anything else. Robin, you can have the last word tonight.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this wonderful Monday. I just want to leave you with one of Cory Booker's quotes. And he said, "Power of the people is greater than the people in power. Never forget that you do have power and your power counts. Use it and don't forget to abuse it. Don't abuse it." Thank you, and y'all have a good night.
Good night. Listen to my mom's voice.
Just let God, my sin, he's been just mad. He's been God's been good. He's been so good. If I can't say